All right, this is going to be the unofficial frontside shove it trick tip. So this is pretty much just like how I learned it and how I do the trick. So it kind of helped me. Maybe it'll help you, but maybe it won't. We'll find out. All right, I think the first thing we should just talk about really quickly is going to be foot placement. And the most important foot in this trick is your back foot. And I'll show you why. Honestly, the front foot does really nothing. The back foot is really the only thing that does the pushing down and the shoving. So when I do this trick, I kind of make sure I push literally right in the middle of the board. So even before we jump on the board, I suggest us doing this a few times. Kind of just pushing down the board and kind of making sure it rotates that way. When you're pushing straight down on your tail, it's just going to give it a more consistent shove it. Like it just won't flip as much. Once you start putting your foot like kind of closer to one of the edges, that's when you're going to see the board kind of varial flip a little bit. So make sure that you're pushing down as straight as you can. So that same popping that you're doing this way is going to be the same thing. I guess the next thing to note, like when you first learn this trick, you're going to notice your board shooting backwards. So you're going to want to jump backwards too. So this is a good way to learn it, but also we want to break this habit. So when you're doing this like on a blank deck with no trucks or wheels on, just on your carpet, you're going to notice you're jumping backwards a lot. Because you're really not popping down, you're kind of just jumping and shoving your board backwards, kind of like this. See how we like completely move from there to here? I mean, great way to learn it, but technically we're going to try to break that habit by popping and pushing down harder. Like I was explaining earlier, when you just push straight down, you're not going to have to jump to the side as much, and you're going to pretty much just stand right in place. See, I pretty much stayed right there. I didn't go all the way over there. I know, we didn't talk about front foot yet, so we're going to get to the front foot. I honestly keep my front foot like pretty much in the middle of the board when I do it. So I put my foot like right here, so it's kind of like right where my toes start to go over the concave, but I'm pretty much in the center of the board. I'm almost in ollie position. And I feel like when your foot is kind of like in the middle in that like ollie position, it's just easier to get your foot kind of kicked up and out and let your board kind of get out of the way. As silly as it sounds, I feel like the more dramatic you do this trick, the kind of easier it is. But yeah, with that kind of foot position, you're almost in that ollie position. But the more that you make it kind of dramatic, like keeping your back foot down on the ground longer and keeping that front foot just like higher and kind of bringing it up to your chest as much as you can, just kind of extends it, makes it look a little bit more like, you know, frog leggy kind of hangy. That's kind of how I do it. But another great way to practice this trick, especially trying to make your leg dangle a little bit, is doing it on a bank to fakie. I feel like I practice front shove it on a bank to fakie so much just to like kind of really dial it in. It's like kind of like doing it on flat ground because you can roll up the bank, kind of almost stopping and then doing the trick and coming back down. So you're pretty much landing the trick slow and getting away with like coming down with speed. I don't know. It's a great way to practice any flip trick. But anyways, I'll show you a few on the bank and what I'm talking about. Okay. I swear it's funny because I'm almost like in a varial heel flip position. We're going to practice a few of these to fakie on the bank. And there's kind of two ways you can kind of approach this. You can kind of start doing your front shove it on the way up to the bank. So you kind of land up here, stop and go back down. Or if it's more comfortable, you kind of ride to the top of the bank a little slower and then pop your trick and then come back down. So there's kind of two ways you can approach this. But it is funny, like when I do this trick, I kind of think like I'm gonna do a heel flip right now, but I don't. So yeah, when I'm doing this trick though, I'm definitely leaning back. Like all of my weight is definitely on the tail right now. And the last way I would suggest practicing this trick is over hip. I mean, I swear learning everything over the hip makes it easier, better, it's more fun. And you only have to pop like 90, not the full 180, so that also helps. I feel like when you've practiced front shove it over the hip, you kind of get more of that steez leg kind of hanging out, just because like you have to let that front shove it like pop and rotate over that thing. So it kind of gives your foot a little bit more time to kind of pop and catch it and make it look nice. Wow. Oh yeah, another thing I kind of want to point out, you'll probably notice, is that I usually pop off the nose of my board. So I'm riding my board backwards. There's a few reasons why I ride my board backwards when I do the front shove it. It's not all the time I do this, but majority of the time I usually front shove it off of my nose. One, I just like having like that bigger nose like on my tail. And I feel like since the nose is usually a little bit bigger, it's going to have that less chance to flip over and like V-flip or like do anything weird like that. But I feel like using the nose as the tail, it gives me a little bit more support. And I feel like when I pop off the nose, since it is bigger, there's just going to be less of that chance of it flipping, and it's going to give me that sturdy front shove it that I want. And I guess another way you can practice this trick is just like off of bank. So when you're doing it off of bank too, it definitely makes, dude, that was it. Literally a bank little launcher like that. It kind of just helps you practice that back foot pop. You're doing it off a bank, it doesn't let you kind of cheat it and like kind of scoop it or anything. I just think it's another good way to practice trick. Audi was just saying that it's usually a lot easier switch than regular. And this is my theory, is that when you're on it switch, you're also on your nose, but it's like easier to get that flatter pop and scoop, where when you're doing it regular, you're kind of thinking about more scooping than popping for some reason. And for some reason it doesn't translate, because I feel like it's so much easier to switch front shove it. But then once you actually do regular front shove it, it's like, what the heck? Oh, we're gonna get one from Dowdy right here. Oh, you popped that good.
Here's the regular one.
Oh,
I can't get above the board.
and when you're doing it switch, you're sitting like further back in that pocket. When you're doing it regular, for some reason, you're not in that position. It's like your body weight doesn't want to sink there. So I think that also makes a difference. But yeah, that's front shove it. Easy money, easy money, easy money. And yeah, that's the unofficial frontside shove it trick tip. I hope it helped. I mean, that's how I learned it. So maybe it helped you. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. Let me know.